I want to start off with a happy birthday to our loyal listener, Tasha. We here at the Crime Bowl Podcast wish you many, many more. Enjoy your birthday and stay safe out there. Okay, let's solve some crime. Make sure you like and subscribe True Crime No Bull. Today we're diving deep into the disappearance of Brianna Maitland, a 17-year-old who vanished in Montgomery, Vermont back in 2004. It's a case that's baffled investigators for almost 2 decades. We've got news articles, police reports, even some first-hand accounts from folks in Montgomery. What we're trying to do is figure out what really happened to Brianna.
What's fascinating here is that this didn't happen in some bustling city. This was Montgomery, Vermont, a small, tight-knit community, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and that makes this disappearance all the more perplexing.
Okay, so let's paint a picture of Brianna for our listeners. What was she like?
Brianna was described as bright, independent, someone who wasn't afraid of hard work. Think about this, a 17-year-old juggling 2 jobs to support herself while also going to school. That speaks volumes about her character, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. But like many teenagers, she wasn't without her struggles. We know she had some run-ins with the law, a few minor offenses, and just weeks before she vanished, she was assaulted at a party, left with a concussion. Do we know anything more about that incident?
Unfortunately, the details surrounding the assault are murky. Some reports suggest it was a fight that got out of hand. Others hint at something more sinister. What's intriguing is whether this event and the people involved could be connected to her disappearance a few weeks later.
All right, so let's fast forward to March 19th, 2004. Brianna finishes her shift at the Black Lantern Inn around 11:20 p.m. She tells her coworkers she's heading home to pack for a weekend trip with her mom. This is the last confirmed sighting of Brianna. And then, poof, she's gone.
It's almost like she vanished into thin air. But here's where it gets even stranger. The next morning, her car, a beat-up '85 Oldsmobile, is found a mile from the inn. Not parked, but smashed into an abandoned building known as the Old Dutch Burn House. It wasn't just a fender bender. The car was partially lodged inside.
Wait, so her car is found crashed into a building? That's not your typical missing person scenario. Was there any indication of what caused the crash?
That's the million-dollar question. There were no skid marks, no signs of another vehicle involved. It's as if she deliberately drove into the building at high speed. But why?
And to make things even more puzzling, her belongings were scattered around the car. Her contact lenses, her wallet, even 2 paychecks she'd just earned. You would think if she planned to run away, she'd take her money right.
Exactly. That's what makes this case so baffling. If she intended to disappear, why leave behind essentials, especially money she clearly needed? It just doesn't add up.
So what were the initial thoughts of the police? Did they suspect foul play right away?
Initially, the police treated it as an abandoned vehicle, not a missing person case. They didn't connect the car to Brianna until her family reported her missing a few days later.
Wow. That seems like a crucial misstep. I mean, wouldn't a crashed car with personal belongings scattered around warrant a closer look?
You would think so, wouldn't you? Unfortunately, that delayed response might have cost investigators valuable time and evidence.
So with the initial response lagging, what were the main theories that emerged once they realized Brianna was missing?
Theories abound in this case. One of the most prevalent is the drug connection theory. We know that the drug scene was active in rural Vermont at that time.
Could Brianna have been involved in some way, maybe witnessing a deal gone wrong or owing money to the wrong people?
But if that's the case, why leave her paychecks behind? Wouldn't she have taken the money if she was involved in some kind of dangerous situation? It doesn't quite fit.
You're right. It's a bit of a contradiction.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this case so challenging. There are pieces of the puzzle that just don't seem to fit neatly together.
Okay, so what are some of the other theories that have been tossed around?
Well, given Vermont's proximity to Canada, the possibility of human trafficking can't be ignored. Could Brianna have been abducted and taken across the border?
That's terrifying to think about, especially considering she was a young woman on her own. It's a chilling thought. And while there's no concrete evidence to support this theory, in Brianna's case, it's a real issue that affects countless young women, especially in areas close to international borders.
So we've got possible drug connections, the potential for human trafficking, and of course we can't forget about that assault a few weeks before her disappearance. Could that have been a warning sign of something more sinister to come?
It's certainly a possibility investigators considered. Was this attack a random act of violence, or was there a deeper, more sinister motive at play, one that ultimately led to her disappearance?
So many questions, so few answers. It's enough to make your head spin.
It really is a case with more questions than answers. And what's particularly intriguing is that despite the years that have passed, there have been numerous alleged sightings of Brianna. These reports have popped up across several states and even reached into Canada.
You'd think with so many sightings, one of them would have panned out right.
Unfortunately, none of these sightings have ever been confirmed. They've often led investigators down dead-end roads, creating false hope and further muddying the waters. Imagine the frustration for Brianna's family clinging to each new lead only to have it fizzle out. It's heartbreaking.
Speaking of Brianna's family, they haven't just been sitting idly by, have they?
Absolutely not. They've been incredibly proactive in the search for their daughter. Feeling that the initial police efforts were insufficient, they hired private investigators to delve deeper into the case.
And did those private investigators manage to uncover anything new?
They did. They unearthed new witness statements and information about local criminal activity that the police might have overlooked. This really underscores how crucial it is to explore every avenue, even when official investigations hit a wall.
So we've got this car crash, scattered belongings theories about drugs trafficking and a prior assault. What was the general consensus among investigators? Did any of these theories gain more traction than others?
Despite extensive investigations, including involvement from both the Vermont State Police and the FBI, no definitive answers have emerged. Each theory has its own set of complexities and contradictions. The lack of concrete evidence has made it incredibly difficult to pinpoint a specific motive or suspect.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing and the picture on the box is blurry.
Exactly. But even with all the complexities, there's one piece of evidence that keeps nagging at me: the car crash. The fact that Brianna's car was found abandoned and crashed into that old house is a huge mystery in itself. Was she trying to escape someone? Did she lose control of the car? Was she forced off the road? The car's position, coupled with her scattered belongings, just doesn't add up.
It's almost like a scene from a movie, a cryptic clue that's begging to be deciphered.
You know what strikes me is that the focus often shifts to the various theories, but the car crash itself seems almost overlooked. It's like the elephant in the room that everyone's tiptoeing around. What if the answer to Brianna's disappearance lies not in who she might have crossed or what she might have been involved in, but in the circumstances surrounding that crash?
That's an interesting point. We're so focused on the why that we might be missing crucial clues in the how.
Precisely. If we can understand the car crash, we might unlock the secrets of that night.
Okay, so let's say the car crash is the key. What are some possibilities? Was she fleeing from someone? Did she have an accident? Was she run off the road? What would make someone crash their car into a building like that?
Let's consider the possibility of her being chased. Imagine Brianna leaving work, maybe sensing danger, and then someone starts following her. She panics, tries to lose them, and in the chaos crashes into the building. It could explain the high-speed impact and the scattered belongings if she was struggling with someone in the car.
That's a plausible scenario. But then why leave her car? Wouldn't she continue running if she was in danger?
Maybe she was injured in the crash, disoriented, or perhaps the pursuer caught up to her. There are countless variables we can't account for, but what if the crash wasn't intentional? What if she lost control of the car for some other reason?
Like what? Mechanical failure?
Yep.
A medical emergency?
Exactly. We know Brianna was still recovering from that concussion she sustained a few weeks prior. Could she have experienced lingering symptoms, maybe a sudden dizziness or loss of consciousness leading to the crash?
It's possible, but wouldn't there be signs of a medical emergency at the scene?
Not necessarily. Depending on the nature of the medical issue, the signs might not be readily apparent. And remember, the initial response treated it as an abandoned vehicle. They weren't looking for evidence of a medical event.
So you're saying that even if there were clues pointing to a medical emergency, they might have been missed or overlooked. That initial misstep could have really thrown a wrench into the whole investigation.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the possibility of environmental factors. We're talking about rural Vermont in March. The weather could have played a role, a patch of ice, a sudden downpour, anything that could have caused her to lose control of the car.
It's amazing how something we often take for granted, like the weather, can have such a profound impact on events.
Exactly. And in a case like this, where every detail matters, even seemingly insignificant factors can't be ignored.
This is getting even more complicated. It's like the more we dig, the more questions we uncover.
And that's the nature of cold cases. They're like tangled webs, and each thread you pull seems to lead to another knot.
But even with all these complexities, there's a glimmer of hope, right? Brianna's case remains open. Advancements in technology like DNA testing and forensic analysis offer the potential for new breakthroughs.
You're absolutely right. Even after all these years, technology might hold the key to unlocking the secrets of Brianna's disappearance. Imagine a scenario where a tiny fiber overlooked at the time is re-examined with modern technology and provides a link to a suspect or a location.
That's the power of forensic science. It can breathe new life into cold cases, offering hope where there was once only despair.
And it's not just technology. Sometimes it's the human element that leads to breakthroughs. A witness coming forward with a long-forgotten memory, a new interpretation of an old piece of evidence, even a chance encounter that sparks a connection. These things happen, and they can make all the difference.
It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope never truly dies.
It's like that saying, the truth is out there. And you know what's often overlooked in cases like this is the impact on the community. Brianna's disappearance sent shockwaves through Montgomery.
I bet this wasn't some big city where people are somewhat desensitized to crime. This was a small town where everyone knew each other.
Exactly. It shattered that sense of security that small towns often have. It was a stark reminder that even in the most idyllic places, darkness can lurk.
I imagine it also sparked a lot of fear and uncertainty.
Absolutely. People started questioning their own safety, wondering if something like this could happen to their own children. It's a fear that lingers even after all these years.
And in the midst of all this fear and uncertainty, there was Brianna's family trying to navigate this nightmare. How did they cope?
Well, they channeled their grief into action. They became relentless advocates for Brianna, working tirelessly to keep her case in the public eye. They organized searches, held vigils, and constantly pushed for answers from law enforcement.
They didn't let the world forget about Brianna.
Not for a single moment. And their advocacy went beyond Brianna's case. They established a nonprofit organization called Private Investigations for the Missing to help other families facing similar tragedies.
So they turned their personal pain into a way to help others. That's incredibly inspiring.
It's a testament to the power of love and the human spirit's resilience. They took their heartbreak and turned it into a force for good, a beacon of hope for those who feel lost and alone in their search for missing loved ones.
It's incredible how, even in the face of unimaginable tragedy, people can find the strength to reach out and help others.
It speaks to the power of empathy and the deep-seated human need for connection, especially in times of crisis.
Okay, so as we wrap up our deep dive into Brianna Maitland's disappearance, what are some key takeaways for our listeners? What can we learn from this case that might help us understand similar mysteries or even just navigate the world a little more safely?
I think the most important takeaway is that even in seemingly safe and peaceful communities, the unexpected can happen. Brianna's case is a stark reminder that we need to be vigilant, aware of our surroundings, and trust our instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is.
It's easy to get complacent, especially in small towns where everyone knows each other. But this case shows that danger can lurk even in the most familiar places.
Absolutely. And it highlights the importance of personal safety measures. Simple things like letting someone know where you're going, when you'll be back, and who you're with can make a huge difference.
And if something does happen, every second counts. Report it immediately. Don't wait. Don't hesitate.
Precisely. The sooner the authorities are involved, the better the chances of a positive outcome. And if you have any information about a missing person case, no matter how small or insignificant it might seem, come forward. That tiny detail could be the missing piece of the puzzle.
You never know what might crack a case wide open. It could be something as simple as remembering a car you saw or a person you encountered.
Exactly. So be observant, be vigilant, and be proactive. We all have a role to play in keeping ourselves and our communities safe.
Well said. And with that, we conclude our deep dive into the disappearance of Brianna Maitland. It's a case that continues to baffle and intrigue, a reminder that some mysteries may never be fully solved. But even in the absence of definitive answers, the search for truth, for justice, and for understanding must continue. True crime no bull.